Hey, Terry, don't forget your pants. Just put on some pants, right? We just put on pants, put on some pants.
It's crunch time, America. Don't forget the chips.
Teddy loves tug-of-war. In his lifetime, he'll pull hundreds of tons. That's why he needs a tailored recipe from Iams to help him stay fit. Iams, who I am.
Starbucks creamer and non-dairy Starbucks creamer. It's smooth. It's creamy. So creamy. It's Starbucks caramel macchiato at home. This changes everything. Starbucks creamer.
Gary Coleman died in a Utah hospital on May 28, 2010, after a tragic accident at his home. Forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Hunter has discovered that Gary's death was the result of a brain injury, but he's not convinced this is the full story.
To precisely understand how Gary died, I need to solve the mystery of how he got his fatal head wound.
Some believe the trauma was a result of a fight with his partner, Shannon. This wouldn't have been the first time the couple had come to blows.
It didn't stay happy very long. I mean, they fought like children.
The couple's rocky relationship led them to both being arrested for domestic assault.
Gary Coleman sits in the Utah County Jail tonight. He was arrested on a domestic violence assault-related charge.
She was strong. She was dominant. I think that was a piece of the relationship that was, maybe not the best for Gary because he kind of let her control him.
After Gary died, wild rumors began to circulate. Even the national media were speculating on the cause of his death.
And there's still a really clear answer to how he fell and how there was so much blood involved.
Gary was frightened that something was going to happen. And he was saying, I got to get out of here. He was afraid of her. And sure enough, I get the call that he fell down the stairs somehow and had a big slash in his head, went to a coma.
In the police report, it states that they questioned Shannon Price about the incident, and the officers searched the kitchen for any signs of foul play. Because there was head trauma, the medical examiner conducted an investigation but found nothing suspicious. Therefore, I'm going to rule out domestic violence as a cause of Gary's death. But I have finally found the clue I was looking for, and it comes from Gary himself in footage that was shot not long before he died. In it, he states that he was prescribed the medication Dilantin. That's an anti-seizure medication. In the same way a circuit breaker trips in the home when it's overloaded, seizures are caused by an electrical surge in the brain. Neurotransmitters fire off messages at a much higher rate. The brain can't cope and shuts down.
January 2010, 5 months before Gary's death. Gary is recovering in the hospital after suffering a seizure at a Los Angeles hotel. He was in town to promote what would be his last film. And as this clip shows, when Gary was released, he was extremely frail.
How you doing, Gary, man? A little problem yesterday?
I just had a little seizure activity. Take a little bit of Dilantin, a little bit of Coumadin, and hopefully the seizure activity will cease.
You gotta take care of yourself, man. I'm a different strokes, man. I grew up
I do the best I can with what I got.
No, I'm sure you're doing well, man.
He came out the next day and he was really, really weak and, walking with a cane. And I could definitely see a decline in his health at that point,
Oh, man, you got your best thoughts and wishes are with you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Make sure that my fans get that.
I will make sure.
Okay. Gary suffered another seizure in February of 2010, only 3 months before his death. This tells me that Gary has a seizure disorder, and this is not uncommon in people who have no kidney function.
After examining all the evidence, Dr. Hunter can finally piece together the story of Gary Coleman's last hours.
Gary returned home from his dialysis session. likely in a tired and weakened state. He goes downstairs to prepare a meal for his partner, Shannon. He begins to eat. Inside his brain, it's like an electrical storm of activity. Chemical messages on the time, and this imbalance leads to his death. Gary collapses in the back of his head on the kitchen floor. The sudden blow ruptures the skin and tears blood vessels that run along the surface of the brain. Blood begins to pool in the space between his skull and his brain. He rides conscious and lucid. But inside his skull, the blood thinners that he's most likely taking stopped his blood from clotting, and it continued to build. As the blood accumulates, it puts pressure on his brain. This limits oxygen-rich blood from reaching the brain tissue, causing additional swelling. As this continues, the brain starts to herniate, and without oxygen, it begins to die. Brain function rapidly decreases, and at some point, he goes into cardiac and respiratory arrest. Gary is now brain dead. Doctors would never have allowed Gary's life support to be turned off if there was any hope that he could have survived. The decision is made to remove Gary's ventilator, and at 12:11 p.m., he's dead. Gary was a fighter. Gary wanted to live. Gary enjoyed his life. Challenges and all, he wasn't ready to let go.
We expect so much of the children that work in this industry, and then after they grow up, sometimes it can be unkind, and that's the tragedy of fame.
The bitter irony of Gary's life is that he will always be remembered for the one character he wanted to forget.
I don't think he ever said anything positive about those years on doing different strokes to me. I think it was an ordeal for him. I think there was a sadness about it.
But for his friends and fans, Gary Coleman will always be the lovable Arnold Jackson.
I would love for Gary to be remembered as somebody who really entertained us and gave us hope on his show.
I think without question, he brought that to all of us, and that's the greatest gift that any entertainer or any human being can leave behind for us to cherish.
The biggest child star ever passed away.
They are the adorable child stars that millions of Americans welcomed into their home each week. Gary Coleman, Todd Bridges, and Dana Plato shoot to fame overnight as Different Strokes becomes a ratings juggernaut for NBC in the late 1970s.
The children in the show had a lot of fans all over the world.
They are positioned to be 13 years old or 15 years old and making $70,000 a week.
On screen, they're a lovable, happy family.
The image in the show was such a happy one, but unfortunately this was different to the reality of the lives of these people.
Off screen, there is turmoil, jealousy, and drug abuse.
I kind of view them all as like this trio, but they weren't. There was a lot of separation between them.
It was a train wreck waiting to happen.
After the show ends, not one, but all three of these once lovable actors head straight to rock bottom.
Hollywood does not forgive you for growing up. You're cute and you're sweet as a child, but growing up, that's a whole different story.
Each star is met with public humiliation and ridicule. Their dirty laundry is aired for the world to see, and the pressure becomes overwhelming.
The price of fame for a child actor is to lose your normalcy in childhood.
They couldn't go out and have a life of their own. They were always the kids from different strokes when they were out in the world, and that's exhausting.
Gary Coleman, Todd Bridges, and Dana Plato. 3 successful child stars, but each denied a normal childhood. And their price of fame would be innocence.
Some cars and Hollywood stars all up tonight. Sadness and stuff was a merry-go-round. Baby, hold me tight.
In 2013, Todd Bridges, best known for his role on the hit series Different Strokes, reminisces on his past and how one show would change the entire trajectory of his life.
Everyone thought I'd be the first one to go. But here I am. The last one standing. It's sad that I'm the last one alive from the show. I sometimes wonder if we should have ever sent in that first audition.
I don't think what happened to the kids on Different Strokes could happen exactly the same way as it happened now. I think there was a lot more benign neglect, so to speak, than we would allow. I think we've learned a lot, unfortunately, off the back of experiences like Todd and Gary and Dana had.
How had things gone so wrong for the once beloved cast of one of America's favorite sitcoms? And how did 3 promising careers vanish in the blink of an eye? In the mid-70s, during a nationwide talent search for a reboot of the Little Rascals series, an adorable pint-sized kid captures the attention of renowned producer Norman Lear.
Well, it's that time of the year when you can get a Hubert doll at the Harris Bank.
Gary Coleman was in a bank commercial when he was discovered. Producer Norman Lear saw him, fell in love with him, and wanted him to audition for his show.
When the Little Rascals pilot falls through, Gary is given another shot at his own show. This time opposite actor Conrad Bain in a comedy about an unlikely family. In search of a brother for Gary, producer Al Burton has his eye on seasoned child actor Todd Bridges while watching the television series.
It's like a doll. It's just like us. There's pigs in it.
No, you're absolutely right. This kid has to be Willis.
Burton decides that he doesn't need to see anyone else and calls Todd's agent right away. Burton then searches for the quintessential all-American girl to play Conrad Bain's bubbly, charismatic daughter. And when he spots a young actress on The Gong Show, he knows immediately that she was born to play the female.
Excuse me, Dana, is it?
Yes, hi, I'm sorry, your name?
My name is Al Burton. I'm a producer. You did a test read for us at team a while back.
Oh, right. Well, it's nice to meet you.
Well, look, if this show doesn't work out, I've got something else in mind for you if you're interested.
Yes, I am absolutely interested.
Great. Listen, I'll give the agent a call and set something up.
Okay, great.
All right, well, see you around, Dana.
Bye.
Todd Bridges would later say from the moment he started reading lines with her that he knew Dana Plato was going to be Kimberly Drummond.
When the first episode of Different Strokes airs on November 3rd, 1978, it's an immediate hit.
It was starring Conrad Bain. He was the millionaire father who adopted 2 black kids from Harlem, and they all lived together, one big happy family, with his daughter, played by Dana Plato. And it was just such a fun, funny show.
Conrad Bain was a big star going into it, and that had helped. But Gary Coleman was very, very funny, and the show was also really different. The Norman Lear shows had zing in a lot of ways that it wasn't afraid to try to tackle issues.
Dad, blowing the whistle on a friend is the lowest thing you can do.
I don't agree. We're talking about drugs here.
That is right.
The show breaks new ground with its unusual plotline. It gains harsh critics, but also adoring fans.
Different Strokes was such a fun, happy place for so many people. Watching that show growing up, I remember thinking, this is how you know good things can happen.
America quickly falls in love with the adorable, precocious Arnold Jackson.
I've never seen a black goldfish before.
That's okay. He never saw a rich white man before either.
Everyone was obsessed with Gary Coleman and his size and his catchphrase.
The children in the show had a lot of fans all over the world.
They became stars really fast because of it.
I knew them from just being in show business and young people in show business.
Former child star Johnny Whitaker is best known for his role as Jody on the 1960s television show Family Affair and the 1970s children's series Sigmund and the Sea Monsters.
Gary Coleman and Todd Bridges and Dana were a family. They loved each other very much.
Their success is instant, but still, one star seems to outshine the rest.
I think Gary's stardom shot up so much faster than Todd or Dana's, even though they were all stars.
Even as Todd and Dana are both featured individually in TV Guide, it is Gary Coleman who finds himself front and center.
You know what? Gary, can you step in with Todd? Just like we did with Dana? There you go, right there. Todd, can you get behind Gary a little bit? Just a little bit. Gary, comes to the front.
Gary said at one point that he felt that Todd was jealous about the attention that Gary got and the treatment that Gary got. I think more so than Gary being the star.
Although Gary is 10 years old when the show begins, his character is treated like a much younger child.
In the very first episode, Gary Coleman was picked up 3 times. They pinched his cheeks. They tickled him. They paraded him around on a pony.
But the perfectly timed gag lines and exaggerated cuteness come at a price for the tween star.
Gary Coleman was born with a congenital chronic kidney disease. He underwent 2 transplants, and the disease was such that it affected his height. He was not ever going to be taller than 4'8", which was a tremendous challenge for him growing up.
As both the show and Gary's success skyrocket, storylines for Todd and Dana dwindle in comparison.
Certainly, Gary himself was like, I don't want to be in every scene. I don't want to be in every show. He did not want that. He just did. If it was scripted, he did.
But that also meant that Todd and Dana fell in the shadows of his spotlight.
How many scenes you got this week?
Only like 5, but whatever, it's fine. What about you?
About 10. Nothing exciting though.
The scripts were written around Gary. It definitely became his show.
While the spotlight focuses on Gary, Dana and Todd, both 14 at the time, form a friendship offset. Eventually, Dana invites Todd to her home and introduces him to a totally new and different side of her that he has not seen before.
So, are your parents cool with you smoking?
Well, my dad left us, and my mom is basically dying in a hospital. So yeah, they're cool with it. Are we gonna smoke or not?
Yeah. Let's just smoke.
Todd would later say that regrettably his first experience with drugs was with Dana, and then it all just snowballed from there.
That's when he really went through his own spirals, difficult times.
Todd's troubles are only just beginning for him. Meanwhile, Dana is dealing with problems of her own, stemming from a craving for attention and acceptance.
Dana Plato had this incredible role on Different Strokes, the daughter of a millionaire living this beautiful life, introducing these 2 brothers and them living as a happy family.
Welcome, little brother. Big brother.
But unfortunately, her own life was not all filled with happiness. She struggled with her own inner demons.
Left neglected by her father and with her mother in the hospital battling a terminal illness, Dana often finds herself alone with her thoughts and aching feelings of abandonment.
She was definitely down the rabbit hole. There was a lot of drug use, a lot of alcohol.
According to Dana's godmother, things come to a head when, while hanging out with friends, a troubled and depressed Dana contemplates suicide. is unvaluable.
According to Dana's godmother, her friends found her and rushed her to the ER, and some have speculated that if Dana really wanted to kill herself, she would not have done it with people in the house.
Though Dana Plato escaped death at age 14, she is far from escaping the inner demons that will haunt her for life. As for Todd Bridges and Gary Coleman, they too will discover that fame comes at a price.
These Fudge Brownie M&Ms are really fudgy. Yes, they are.
Fudge Brownie cigarette and M&Ms is
genius. I know.
I was going to say hard. Why won't you go in?
Fudge Brownie M&Ms. At Chewy, we know walks are made better with our furry friends, and we're here to make those walks easier every step of the way. From tasty treats on the go to toys that keep them moving. Whether it's rain or shine, get everything they need, even prescriptions to help them stay healthy. At Chewy, we have leashes, toys, and treats for every kind of walk, delivered right to your door. Get fast, free 1 to 2 day shipping. Visit chewy.com today. Our essential mist transforms fragrance infused with natural essential oils into a mist to awaken your home with an experience you can see, smell, and feel. It's air care redefined. Airwick Essential Mist. Connect to nature. Why Walgreens? With Save-A-Trip refills that let you pick up all your prescriptions all on the same day, we make filling your Medicare prescriptions go like clockwork, so you can get back to what you'd rather be doing.
Today, the Purdue family changes the world with organic nuggets, tenders, and strips made with quality ingredients you've totally heard of. Purdue Simply Smart Organics. It's called that because it's simple and organic.
Among my patients, I often see them have teeth sensitivity as well as gum issues. Does it worry me? Absolutely. Sensodyne sensitivity and gum gives us a dual action effect that really takes care of both our teeth sensitivity as well as our gum issues. There's no question it's something that I would recommend.
I've always focused on my career, but when we found out our son had autism, his future became my focus. Lavender baths always calmed him, so we turned bath time into a business. And building it with my son has been my dream job. At Northwestern Mutual, our version of financial planning helps you live your dreams today. Find a Northwestern Mutual advisor at nm.com.
Is that carbs a total? Not enough fiber. Chocolate would be good.
Snacking should be sweet and simple. The delicious taste of Glucerna gives you the sweetness you're craving while helping you manage your blood sugar with nutrients to help support immune health.
Arizona has 7 delicious crusts, and your family food critics will rave. Croissant crust is flaky layers of buttery bliss. Rising crust is fresh baked deliciousness. There's a 5-star pizza for everyone in your family to love. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno.
With the wave of a hand, stains appear, ruining the things you love. But clean doesn't just happen. Magic happens because you make it happen. Blast out tough messes. Make stains disappear. Soak away odors. Whoa, do that again. It saves the things you love and saves you money. We make OxyClean. You make it work. Work your magic.
What a great movie you can watch at home. Reels recommend Unhinged. Russell Crowe takes road rage to a new level of terror in this unpredictable thriller. I don't even think you really know what a bad day is. Watch Unhinged on demand. I'm Earl Dorger. Join me Saturday as I take a new look at one of the most notorious crimes in American history. Plus, I revisit the day I spent face to face with Charles Manson. Death by Manson. Premieres Saturday on Reels. Now the world don't move to the
In 1980, the cast of Different Strokes is at the height of their success, and the show has become an American favorite, tackling issues that most shows refuse to touch.
Different Strokes did a lot of special episodes. They would deal with subjects such as racism, bulimia, pedophilia, subjects that were really difficult to talk about, especially in a sitcom.
If more kids knew the facts, less of these things would happen. Unfortunately, child molesters prey on the innocence of children.
The show would go right after an issue. Producers and writers got all sorts of letters, racist letters, complaining that it was showing this world, and the actors knew nothing about it. It was all shielded from them.
What isn't shielded from the adorable child actors are the incredible pressures that come with being on a hit series. The cracks begin to show once the spotlight is turned off.
Being on a hit show and suddenly having money and being a cog in this huge machine of network television and fame and TV enabled so much of the bad stuff that happened to them to happen.
For Dana Plato, her reckless drug abuse soon affects her work on set.
There were certainly stories that seemed to imply that Dana had come to work high or under the influence of drugs on more than one occasion. It seemed to have gotten worse as the series progressed.
Hey guys, I will be in hair makeup if you need me.
Having an addictive personality, it was a train wreck waiting to happen.
Meanwhile, Gary Coleman's patience with fame is already wearing thin, and life in the spotlight is becoming a bore to the 13-year-old star.
He was a little frustrated that he was always the same character. Arnold was not given a lot of chance to grow and change in the way that the others were. He wasn't getting bigger, so it was easy to keep him trapped like that and to keep him the star like that.
Gary Coleman's stunted growth is due to his failing kidneys. While he looks like a child to most, his painful daily treatments force Gary to grow up way too fast.
Hey, Gary. Skipping lunch?
Yeah, I gotta take care of the kitty.
There was a lot of pressure on Gary Coleman as a child. It's difficult to work as a child anyway, but he was battling chronic kidney disease. He was often on set getting dialysis, and his parents were encouraging him to work through that painful situation. So for him, there was a lot of pressure to be that kid on set working and doing a great job when you're in a lot of pain.
He was incredibly sick on the set, and he just kept having to keep working. The show never had a long shutdown for him because I think they were more focused on feeding the machine.
But as his health casts a shadow over the show and his career, Gary Coleman is still taking his infamous catchphrase straight to the bank.
Look, Gary, we've gone over the numbers, and the most we can offer you is $70,000 per week.
Gary went from making $20,000 an episode to a reported $70,000 an episode, while Dana was said to be making about a third of that.
It's a rare position to be 13 years old or 15 years old and making $70,000 a week at the star of a #1 sitcom. And meanwhile, your kidney is failing and you're undergoing surgery and you're sick all the time on the set. But how do you stop this machine when all these other things are possible?
The discrepancy between how cast members are treated and paid further tears apart this perfect TV family. In one incident, Gary and Todd get into a fight on set that Conrad Bain has to break up.
Handle it.
He started it.
Todd.
According to Allison Arngrim from Little House on the Prairie, they were told to never play with the kids from Different Strokes.
As trouble on set continues to brew, Todd Bridges' life offset spirals out of control.
Todd Bridges had a number of run-ins with the law. He was arrested for reckless driving. He was also arrested for possession of cocaine.
On July 20th, 1983, Todd Bridges is pulled over for speeding. But when an officer searches his car, he discovers a loaded handgun. This begins a long span of Todd's run-ins with the LAPD.
For Todd, I think being a visible black TV star, having money in Los Angeles, changed things for him. He was often pulled over by the police for no apparent reason.
Soon after his first arrest, Todd faces the LAPD once again when his car breaks down close to home.
No respect. Put your hands up. Whoa. Hey, what the hell did I do now? You got a call that this car is being stolen. Whoa, man, this is his car. You got the wrong guy.
While Todd is reportedly being harassed, witnesses who recognize the actor come to his defense. But even fame can't save the young star from being arrested. Todd will file a civil suit against the LAPD, but that won't be the end of his troubles with the law. Around the same time, 19-year-old Dana Plato makes an announcement that will alter the course of her life forever.
Guys. I'm so glad you all are here. I have the most exciting news. I'm pregnant. Isn't that wonderful? I'm going to be a mom.
Oh, Dana fell in love quite young, got pregnant, and eloped, but she was absolutely thrilled about having a child.
Dana, are you sure this is what you really want?
Oh, yes, I wanted. I got pregnant on purpose.
Why would you want the baby now? At your age and where we are in the series.
Well, don't you see? When I get the baby, I won't be lonely anymore.
You can't be a wholesome girl next door if you are pregnant and they don't put it into the show.
Dana Plato is soon let go from the permanent cast of Different Strokes and only brought back as an occasional guest star.
So Todd and Gary were both totally surprised that Dana was let go from the show for any reason. They didn't really feel it was particularly fair, and they were kind of shocked that it happened.
For Dana being a young adult and having this come to her and being in the prime of her career, that's a big blow.
I think that it was a real loss to them not to have Dana around. And I think the show really, for them, became an even worse place to be after that moment in time.
Even with Dana Plato out as a regular cast member, the show continues on. But by 1985, the fate of the Different Strokes cast seems uncertain.
Gary Coleman said that by the fourth season, it just stopped being fun. And that's when his spirit felt like it died. And it just wasn't the same for him anymore.
Hey, Earl, you get in a fight? Kind of.
Well, I hope she didn't hurt you.
Gary really had a lot of ideas that he wanted to pursue. He kind of always wanted to be an action star. Gary was also kind of uncompromising. He wanted to do the things that he really wanted to do. He was done being this little kid. That time was done.
In addition to Gary's growing disinterest, Different Strokes begins to dip in the ratings. And in 1985, the series is canceled by NBC.
I think when Different Strokes finally ended the first time, Gary was thrilled. Conrad Bain, Gary says, was also very happy that it was done. It had run its course for him.
For most of the cast and crew, there is relief with the end of the show. However, that relief is short-lived when the series is resurrected by the ABC network.
Gary was so done. And when it came back on ABC, Gary was so unhappy to have to play Arnold again when he thought that chapter was behind him. Todd would have continued with the show for as long as they would have had it. He didn't love it. It was a job.
But when the job ends for Todd and his castmates, they'll soon get hit with the stark realization that fame can be less a blessing than a curse.
Saturday, January 30th, on Wheels, two of rock's biggest and baddest. A two-night event. Axl Rose, Aerosmith, Bad Boys of Rock. It all starts Saturday, January 30th, on Wheels.
Starbucks creamer and non-dairy Starbucks creamer. It's smooth. It's creamy. So creamy. It's Starbucks caramel macchiato at home. This changes everything. Starbucks creamer.
Okay, Lulu, you said it. And as I spike it, I'll tell them how Liberty Mutual customizes car insurance, so they only pay for what they need. Got it? Did you get that? Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty. What's my safe flight story? I spent a lot of time in my truck. It's my livelihood. So I'm not taking any chances when something happens to it. So when my windshield cracked, my friend recommended Safe Flight Auto Glass. It came right to me with expert service where I needed it. That's service I can trust, no matter what I'm hauling. Right, girl?
Safe Flight Repair, Safe Flight Replace.
Your happiness and health depend on a good night's sleep. Right now, Nectar Sleep is helping with our biggest offer ever. Go to nectarsleep.com and get $399 of premium accessories with every mattress, sheets, mattress protector, and premium pillows. Don't wait.
Still fresh. Unstoppable in wash down the unstoppables.
I'm Jimmy Dean, and only one thing can make a morning like this any nicer. A hearty, hefty, good tasting breakfast with eggs, bacon, sausage, cheese, and taters. And when you finish, you know you had something to eat.
Think I'll go for a walk outside now. The summer sun's calling my name. Everybody's smiling, sunshine day. Everybody seems so happy today. It's a sunshine day.
For skin as alive as you are, don't settle for silk. 7 moisturizers, 3 vitamins, 24-hour hydration. Gold Bond. Champion your skin.
Jim and Joanne are here to pick up the same prescription. They both know the system is not on their side. They both know drug costs are out of control. But one of them is taking back control with GoodRx. So while he's paying that much, even with his insurance, she's paying this much just by using GoodRx. Use GoodRx to compare prices at pharmacies in your area and stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today and take back control.
Kids can change minds. They can even change the world around us. Packed with protein plus 21 vitamins and minerals, we nourish them with Carnation Breakfast Essentials. Because today could change everything.
Mom! Yeah? I fell. Okay, there's bandages in the cabinet. I'm bleeding. Grab 2.
Sheba, what cats want?
When they're sick, they get comfortable anywhere and spread germs everywhere. Wherever they rest, protection. Nothing kills more viruses, including the COVID-19 virus, on more surfaces than Lysol disinfectant spray. Lysol, what it takes to protect.
You can help small businesses. Go to realscares.com. At its height, Different Strokes is a ratings juggernaut with American audiences, even scoring guest appearances from the likes of Muhammad Ali, Janet Jackson, and First Lady Nancy Reagan.
Don't tell her about Mrs. Reagan.
But after a switch in networks and low ratings for its 8th season, Different Strokes is canceled in the spring of 1986. Its child stars, Gary Coleman, Todd Bridges, and Dana Plato, no longer live between the guardrails of life on set. And for Dana Plato, life without structure leads to a series of few highs and many devastating lows.
Dana's adoptive parents divorced when she was very young and she rarely saw her father. And then her mother was diagnosed with a very rare skin disease. When Dana was on the show, that fame filled a void in her. And when she didn't have it anymore, she turned to drugs to fill that pain.
The emotionally unstable actress struggles with the realization that her only parent is about to die.
Jesus, just die already. Just die.
It really devastated Dana when her mom died. I mean, her mom was great stability for her, and it really was kind of pulling an underpinning out from under her.
Without a real source of support, and with her Different Strokes family no longer around, Dana relies on drugs to ease her pain.
Really never fully recovered from that. She didn't have the tools to deal with any of this. And she was like floundering, and I think someone has to have lived that life to really understand it.
Although she is crippled by the loss of her mother, Dana tries to pull it together to be a good mother to her son, Tyler.
Look, Mama. I found a butterfly. Your favorite color, too.
Oh, wow, a moth arc.
Dana throws herself into motherhood, which she sees as the only good thing to happen since she was written off the show. But despite Dana's best efforts, she continues to struggle with addiction. Out of the spotlight, Dana Plato isn't the only star lost in the darkness. Todd Bridges is out of work, and his drug use is spiraling out of control. By Christmas Day in 1988, Todd is reportedly alone, broke, and contemplating suicide. As for his co-star, Gary Coleman, this once millionaire child actor, now 20 years old, finds himself in a shocking financial situation.
Gary should never have had to work ever again. No one around Gary should have ever had to work ever again.
Gary had a multi-million-dollar TV fortune that seemingly vanished into thin air, according to Gary and family friend Yall.
You mean to tell me all the money I've earned, money I barely touched, is gone? Millions of dollars just gone.
You know who's at fault here, right?
Gary's parents allege that Dion Yall brainwashes Gary against them. Yall, however, claims he was concerned for Gary and was merely looking out for his friend's best interests. Gary Coleman sues his parents in 1989, alleging that they misappropriated his money. 4 years later, a judge will rule in Gary's favor.
Despite the fact that Gary Coleman won $1.3 million in a settlement with his parents, his relationship with them suffered, and he had financial woes after that, and it was really difficult for him to recover.
Like her different strokes siblings, Dana Plato is out of money and desperately grabs at any job she can find, including stripping the innocent Kimberly Drummond persona for a different, more revealing Dana.
So America watched this wholesome little girl grow up on TV, and they expected her to stay that way. So I don't think these pictures got the response she was hoping for.
Hollywood does not forgive you for growing up. You're cute and you're sweet and all of that as a child. But growing up, that's a whole different story.
With no job offers coming in, Dana packs up and moves from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, Nevada.
Dana Plato went from making thousands and thousands of dollars on TV to not even being able to get a job picking up trash. So she was desperate for money.
The only employment she manages to find is a minimum wage job working at the front desk at a dry cleaner. The once promising actress is often ridiculed and made fun of virtually everywhere she goes.
It became very difficult for her and pushed her more towards drugs and alcohol. She did not take the most wonderful care of herself in that regard.
Back in LA, Todd Bridges continues his own drug abuse, frequenting crack houses and surrounding himself with drug dealers. But on February 2nd, 1989, Todd finds himself in the wrong place at the wrong time.
On your back. Mr. Bridges, you're under arrest for attempted murder. Murder who? I didn't murder no one. Let's go.
Todd is taken into custody for attempted murder of a drug dealer, with bail posted at $2 million, and hires Johnny Cochran, who will later represent O.J. Simpson, as his attorney. But when the defense proves Todd wasn't present at the time of the gunshots, he is acquitted of the charges and set free. After leaving her job at the dry cleaners, Dana Plato slips farther into financial crisis. She skips paying her rent and allegedly spends what little money she has getting drunk at a local bar.
She was living on the edge of poverty and unable to reach out to anyone, and it ended, unfortunately, with one of her more unfortunately infamous acts.
In 1991, Dana enters a video store in what will be her most dramatic role yet.
Give me all your money. You've got to be kidding me. Oh, I'm not kidding. Hurry. Come on.
To be a known actress, to go into a video store where you're probably going to be recognized, it just seemed like a cry for help.
Dana and her Different Strokes castmates, Todd Bridges and Gary Coleman, have all been plunged into the depths of despair. And for two of them, things will get even worse.
Kids can change minds. They can even change the world around us. Packed with protein plus 21 vitamins and minerals, we nourish them with Carnation Breakfast Essentials. Because today could change everything.
Is he okay? Oh, yeah. We decided he's done walking for the day.
The moments that make you. Dial Body Wash gets you clean. Its rich lather cleanses and hydrates, leaving a fresh scent and clean, soft skin.
Ah, a package. You know what this human ordered? A backache. Consider pain delivered. Pain says you can't. Advil says you can.
Superhammer just about sleeps in her cave, but when we realized she was battling sensitive skin, we switched to Tide plus Downy Free. It's gentle on her skin and out cleans our old bargain detergent. Tide Pods plus Downy Free, safe for sensitive skin with eczema and psoriasis.
With Mucinex Night Shift, you've got powerful relief from your worst nighttime cold and flu symptoms. So grab Night Shift to fight your symptoms, get your C's, and get back to your rhythm. Feel the power. Beat the symptoms fast.
I'm Erin. And I'm Margot. We've always done things our own way, charted our own paths. I wasn't going to just back down from moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis.
Psoriatic arthritis wasn't going to change who I am.
When I learned that my joint pain could mean permanent joint damage, I asked about Enbrel. Enbrel helps relieve joint pain and helps stop permanent joint damage.
Plus, Enbrel helps skin get clearer in psoriatic arthritis. Ask your doctor about Enbrel so you can get back to your true self. Enbrel may lower your ability to fight infections. Serious, sometimes fatal events, including infections, tuberculosis, lymphoma, other cancers, nervous system and blood disorders, and allergic reactions have occurred. Tell your doctor if you've been someplace where fungal infections are common, or if you're prone to infections, have cuts or sores, have had hepatitis B, have been treated for heart failure, or if you have persistent fever, bruising, bleeding, or paleness. Don't start Enbrel if you have an infection like the flu. Visit Enbrel.com to see how your joint damage could progress. Enbrel. Eligible patients may pay as little as $5 per month.
Planters is for the cravers. The crunchy, savory cravers. And the cravers that deserve something special. Planters Deluxe Mixed Nuts. Stay satisfied. All right, I brought in Ensure Max Protein to give you the protein you need with less of the sugar you don't. I'll take that.
30 grams of protein and 1 gram of sugar. Ensure Max Protein with nutrients to support immune health.
At Domino's, you can carry out 3 topping pizzas for just $7.99 each. And with Domino's Carside Delivery, you can conveniently stay in your car while you do it. Just pull up, check in online, and we'll quickly bring your food to you.
Thank you.
So you don't have to get out to get carry out. Like Denny here.
Hey, Hamlet. I like your PJs.
Stay in the driver's seat with Domino's Carside Delivery.
What a great movie you can watch at home. Reels recommend Unhinged. Russell Crowe takes road rage to a new level of terror in this unpredictable thriller. I don't even think you really know what a bad day is. Watch Unhinged on demand. I'm Earl Rivera. Join me Saturday as I take a new look at one of the most notorious crimes in American history. Plus, I revisit the day I spent face to face with Charles Manson. Death by Manson. Premieres Saturday on Reels.
In what seems like a cry for help, former Different Strokes star Dana Plato robs a video store in 1991. The actress gets away with $164 in cash.
She robbed a video store early in the day when there wasn't even very much money there, but out of sheer desperation, and took the money and left.
No, seriously, it was Kimberly from Different Strokes. Dana, what's her name?
But in an unlikely turn of events, Dana returns to the scene of the crime.
Honey. Wait, that's her. I'm sorry.
Dana will later claim she had a change of heart and wanted to return the money. Regardless of her intention, Dana is arrested and taken to jail. In an odd twist of fate, Las Vegas legend Wayne Newton comes to her rescue.
Wayne Newton did not know Dana Plato, but had grown up as a star himself, and he understood exactly why she was in that position, which is really kind of remarkable that Wayne Newton bailed her out.
Like Dana, Todd Bridges is unraveling. He becomes a self-described trash can addict, one so addicted to drugs that he'll do anything to get high.
Under the influence of as much drugs as he was taking at the time, I think he ultimately got incredibly frightened about how he was behaving.
Todd's troubles come to a boiling point in 1992 when he is arrested for possession of a controlled substance while carrying a firearm. But this arrest would lead to an epiphany. Todd Bridges is given the choice of jail or rehab. He opts for one last chance at sobriety. But Dana Plato is not yet ready to let go of her addiction. After receiving 5 years probation for robbing a video store in 1991, Dana once again tempts her fate with the law.
Dana Plato stole a prescription pad from her ex-father-in-law and then forged a prescription for several refills of Valium.
According to the True Hollywood story, when Dana's former father-in-law discovers that fraudulent prescriptions have been filled, he goes to the police. It's only a matter of time before the authorities tie her to the crime. She turns herself in before she is arrested. Dana is sentenced to rehabilitation and spends 30 days in jail for violating her previous probation. For Todd Bridges, ridding his body of drugs proves easier said than done. After a violent outburst during his withdrawal, he is sent to the psychiatric ward.
In his book, Todd talked about being strapped in a bed, wearing a diaper for several days as his body was going through withdrawals. He said at the time it was very demoralizing, but that was also the point when he realized, I have got to do something to change this.
That's when he finally said, I have to take care of the problem, and he did.
After several days of being constrained, Todd is released from the shackles of his addiction. He discovers serenity in his sobriety. And for the first time in years, he envisions a positive step forward.
He's really someone, though, who managed to take that pain and those inner demons and turn them around.
While one star finds peace, another contemplates death. In 1993, the once beloved star, Gary Coleman, is depressed and desperately searching for a way out.
There was very little work for him. He went from being the #1 star on the #1 show to next to no work. And that's just the way it was.
Broke and humbled, Gary applies for a security guard position at the Fox Hills Mall.
To Gary, a job was a job. And so when he worked as a security guard afterwards, to him, that's like, well, I have a job. I'm going to do it. I showed up on set and did my job. Now I'm going to show up and do my job here.
Living as a fallen celebrity is a difficult adjustment for Gary, and he famously shuns attention from fans.
Excuse me, Mr. Coleman? Can I get your autograph?
While shopping for his work uniform, Gary will later admit that he was pushed to the limit.
Do you mind making it a bit more personal? You can make it out to my son, Elliot.
You know you don't really need my autograph. I'm not on TV anymore.
Well, maybe if you had a better attitude, you would have made it as an adult actor.
Gary Coleman is arrested for assault and is sentenced to 1-year probation. And as hard as he tries to escape his legacy, fame follows wherever he goes.
If you talk about the price of fame, there he is just trying to do a job so he can eat and pay his medical bills. I mean, and this is what is so horribly sad to imagine how you get from point A to point B. You're making $70,000 a week, and years later, the money was gone. That was it. And he wasn't able to revitalize his career in any way. And he can't get away from the fact that he's Gary Coleman from Different Strokes. It just haunts him constantly.
Dana Plato, now allegedly sober, hopes to restore her once flourishing career. Dana seeks new management and finds it in former child star Johnny Whitaker, best known for such classic TV shows as Family Affair and Sigmund and the Sea Monsters.
So when Dana came to see my sister and I for representation, I just said, I've got a job for you, possibly an interview. We suggested that she go get some updated photos, and the photos look good.
Dana, these are going to turn out great. Thank you. It's my son who keeps me smiling.
According to the photographer, Dana gushed the entire time about her son and kept going on and on about how alive she looked.
She looked great. She looked beautiful.
But both her happiness and sobriety are fleeting. Soon, she and Gary Coleman will make their final shocking headlines.
Saturday, January 30th, on Wheels. Two of rock's biggest and baddest. A two-night event. Axl Rose, Aerosmith, Bad Boys of Rock. It all starts Saturday, January 30th, on Wheels.
When you have diabetes, managing your blood sugar is crucial. Try Boost Glucose Control. The patented blend is clinically shown to help manage blood sugar levels. Boost Glucose Control products contain high-quality protein and key nutrients to support immune health. Try Boost. Why Walgreens? With copays as low as $0, Walgreens makes supporting your Medicare prescriptions no sweat. So you can get back to the thing you'd rather be doing.
New Advil Dual Action with acetaminophen fights pain in 2 ways. Advil targets pain at the source, while acetaminophen blocks pain signals. The future of pain relief is here. New Advil Dual Action.
At Chewy, we know the best moments with our pets are made even better with food, and we believe those moments don't have to cost more money. So you can save on their favorite meals in between meals. Late night snacks, toys that look like meals, and even the prescriptions that help them stay happy and healthy. At Chewy, we have quality food, treats, and toys for every kind of meal, delivered right to your door. Save 30% on your first auto ship order. Visit Chewy.com today. Give your morning a little boost with your morning favorites made mini. All the flavors you love turned bite-sized and ready to go when you are.
No fork, no plate, no trouble. I like the heck out of them. I think you will too.
What's that?
New Snuggle Super Care should help keep these clothes looking newer for a long time.
They still look amazing.
Fight color fade with new Snuggle Super Care fabric conditioner.
Today, the Purdue family changes the world with organic nuggets, tenders, and strips made with quality ingredients you've totally heard of. Purdue Simply Smart Organics. It's called that because it's simple and organic.
With Drizzly, I can shop a huge selection of beer, wine, and liquor. I just open the app, find what I want, and it's at my door in under 60 minutes. Drizzly also lets me shop from multiple stores in my area and compare prices on thousands of products.
Ding dong, Drizzly.
Our
Essential Mist transforms fragrance infused with natural essential oils into a mist to awaken your home with an experience you can see, smell, and feel. It's air care redefined. Air with Essential Mist. Connect to nature.
Sarah, did you know Geico could save you hundreds of car insurance and a whole lot more? So what are you waiting for? Captain Ahab to help you find a parking spot?
Merciful! Loading zone started. Pull hard to starboard.
Too small.
Seriously? Because it... Fire him. Steady. Steady. No. Thunderation to the northern lock where there be parking spaces as big as whales.
Geico, the only way you can stay.
Starbucks creamer and non-dairy Starbucks creamer. It's smooth. It's creamy. So creamy. It's Starbucks caramel macchiato at home. This changes everything. Starbucks creamer.
Autopsy. Dana Plato. Next on Real.
In 1999, the cast members of Different Strokes find themselves in very different places. After years of drug abuse and run-ins with the law, Todd Bridges is clean and working to reclaim his career in Hollywood. Gary Coleman is bankrupt, in ill health, and longs for days where he isn't recognized. Dana Plato desperately seeks to rediscover her career and happiness.
Dana Plato wanted to get back into acting, but found it incredibly difficult.
Dana grabs at any opportunity for a role, even if it means sinking to new lows.
She ended up in a soft porn film called Different Strokes, the story of Jack and Jill. She was really willing to do whatever it took to revamp her career, but it just didn't pan out for her.
Her descent was unfortunately very total. She really never fully recovered from that.
Still hoping for a career boost, Dana Plato agrees to be a guest on the Howard Stern radio show.
So here is Dana Plato. Looking good. Go ahead, answer your question of Dana.
Hi, Todd.
Get this girl out of here. She's a hazard.
Oh, please.
Come on. She just needs to admit that she's an ex-druggie, con, lesbian with mental health problems.
I was shocked that one human being would treat another human being the way he treated Dana.
Use the hair on your head. Give him a hair. And we'll test you. Right here. And we'll find out if you're on drugs once and for all.
Fine. Howard, have one of your producers take this hair and test it. Okay, I'm sober. I shouldn't have to prove it.
And that's not what you do to a person in recovery. That's not what you do to a person in crisis.
Excuse me? I'm gonna need that strand of hair back. Please don't say anything.
Addiction is a mental health disorder, and it's nothing to be teased about or played with. And Dana was trying to find how she could be happy.
The day after the interview, Dana Plato travels to Moore, Oklahoma to stay with fiance Robert Menchaca and his mother.
You know, I'm feeling a little sick. I'm gonna lay down in the camper.
Well, rest up, dear. Tomorrow will be a busy Mother's Day.
Dana escapes to her Winnebago alone. Once inside, she ingests a number of painkillers. The dosage.
Her death was ruled a suicide. And that tragedy is something that not many people saw coming.
Dana allegedly took her life right before Mother's Day. And then 10 years later, her son Tyler took his life on the anniversary of her death.
When I heard, I was very, very sad. Unfortunately, in the world of child stardom, it is a common thread, which doesn't have to happen, but it does. I officiated her memorial service. I thought it was a beautiful service. Both Todd and Gary spoke, and some other friends. It was pretty wonderful. During the service, a butterfly came and landed on me. I knew that was Dana. because she loved butterflies. She'd come to say thank you, and I'll always remember.
In 2007, Gary Coleman experiences a glimmer of hope when he marries 22-year-old Shannon Price. But only a year later, their tumultuous relationship lands them on the series Divorce Court.
But I'm 40 years old and I can't do this for another 30 years.
Gary Coleman's life was getting more and more complicated. He was arrested for reckless driving and disorderly conduct, and he was married, but the marriage didn't last long.
On the evening of May 26, 2010, Gary is relaxing at his home in Utah. Even though they are divorced, he and ex-wife Shannon still cohabitate.
I'm kind of hungry. We go get me something to eat downstairs? Gary!
Okay, fine. What happens next will be the subject of controversy for years to come. While his ex-wife says he fell down the stairs by accident, there are conspiracy theories that she might have pushed him.
I heard this big bang. I went downstairs, blood everywhere. He's lethargic. I can't really help him. I just can't be here with the blood. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Gary Coleman is rushed to the hospital, where he spends 2 days battling a brain hemorrhage before being taken off life support. At 42 years old, Gary Coleman passes away on May 28, 2010. His ex-wife denies all foul play accusations, and a police investigation rules Gary's death an accident.
I would like to think when people remember Gary, that they remember the happier times. He had the ability to make people smile, and he was part of a show that made people.
Todd Bridges continues to resurrect his career and share his journey while in and out of the spotlight.
Our parents told us, don't do drugs. But they never said why.
You spent some time doing public speaking just to show others the effects and the damages that can be caused by addiction and drugs.
He'd gone through very dark times, but he had come out the other end and he knew why, and he was incredibly grateful for it. He was a person who was so happy to have found his sobriety because of everything that it brought him and enabled him to be. I mean, he was an incredibly talented, smart, funny, athletic guy who, it's like, wow, he squandered the gifts, but he didn't. He has all the gifts, and now he can use them in a way for himself and for his loved ones.
I've been to hell and back, and I'm here to say drugs are not worth your life. And you know what? If I'm being really honest, me, Dana, Gary, we had successful highs, but we had even more lows that were always under the spotlight. But despite everything that we went through, I'm glad that our show brought me, Dana, and Gary together. Life is forever changed. Thank you.
Dana Plato, a TV star at 12. She died on Saturday of an overdose of prescription drugs.
In the 80s, Dana Plato won the heart of America as Kimberly Drummond on TV's Different Strokes.
Dana was one of the most beautiful girls on television.
Bringing her star quality to the small screen.
That X factor, she had it.
But behind the Hollywood glamour lay a darker story.
I think that everything spiraled, but we're not.
Dana led a life of substance abuse and addiction.
We thought this was going to help our lives, not realizing it was destroying us and killing us.
Bizarre scandal.
Basically, I got drunk and I robbed a video store.
It all just has the look of a sick, twisted nightmare fairy tale. And earth-shattering lows. In May 1999, Dana Plato died at the age of just 34 in Moore, Oklahoma. Her death shrouded in mystery.
Dana Plato's death certificate concludes that she died from multi-drug intoxication. Officially, her overdose on drugs was recorded as suicide. But there are many who think Dana's death was accidental and who question the claim. I want to investigate Dana Plato's last day to find out if this young mother with seemingly so much to live for really meant to take her own life.
World-renowned medical examiner and forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Hunter has conducted thousands of autopsies. Collaborating closely with law enforcement and other forensic specialists, his pivotal role in investigating suspicious cases has revealed the truth behind mysterious deaths for over 20 years.
When Dana Plato died, it was widely reported in the press as an accidental overdose. But when the autopsy report became available, the verdict was suicide. Since then, a question mark has hung over what exactly happened. I'm going to investigate Dana's life in forensic detail, using her autopsy report alongside personal testimony to discover the truth about the 34-year-old star's death.
November 6, 1997. CBS Studios, Los Angeles, California. 18 months before her death. Dana is preparing to appear on a TV talk show. She has been divorced for 8 years and rarely sees her 13-year-old son Tyler, who lives with his father. It's been 11 years since Different Strokes, and Dana's hoping to reignite her failing career with a reunion appearance alongside her former co-stars Gary Coleman and Todd Bridges.
When Dana met us, it was like she had two brothers. We all got along really well. She's a sister, she's a great friend, she's everything to me.
Dana's trying to rebuild her career and has starred in 2 films this year and continues to look for work.
She was planning on getting herself together, trying to get her career back going.
Was there ever anything, because y'all are two pretty close in age, did you ever look like this? You look
Yes,
did you ever?
I did. I know you did too. He said,
Did he? Times the court. Did he ever?
"Oh, I did too."
No, I heard. Wait a minute.
Please don't leave me.
If I look at this talk show performance 18 months before her death, Dana appears upbeat, happy, and to outside observers, far from suicidal. She also looks physically well. Her autopsy report describes her vital organs in good condition, and other indicators suggest she's healthy. I need to find out if it was really possible that she wanted to kill herself. If Dana did indeed kill herself, as the autopsy states, I need to understand what happened over the next 18 months to cause her life to take such a tragic turn.
Dana Michelle Plato was born in Maywood, California in 1964. Her birth mother, Linda Strain, a 17-year-old unwed parent, was unable to care for her. Dana's birth father had nothing to do with her.
Dana came into the world as she felt unwanted and was given away and adopted.
Kay and Dean Plato took on Dana when she was just 3 days old. But less than 3 years later, Dana's new adoptive parents divorced, and her father left her life.
Dana had a series of events that happened that no child should ever have to experience.
After the breakup, adoptive mom, Kay, lavished the young Dana with affection.
Kay didn't have to give birth to her to love her the way she did. They used to laugh together and play together and just do everything together. She was Dana's strength.
The young Dana showed a love and talent for performing. And at just 7, Kay and Dana decided to attend an audition for a TV commercial. It was the beginning of her small screen career.
Dana did numerous commercials, and you can see why it's easy. I mean, she had that fresh, scrubbed, all-American look.
If Dana walked into an audition, all the Hollywood bums would say, "Uh-oh, it's over."
Dana had done a lot of work. A lot of commercials, a lot of movies.
Mommy, where are you? I'm here.
But Dana would soon face a tough choice. Dana
She was incredibly talented as a figure skater too. There was some thinking that she was going to possibly go for the Olympics, and that was clashing with her acting. So her mother decided early on that she was going to concentrate on acting.
In 1978, a 12-year-old Dana got the break that would change her life forever. She auditioned for the role of the teenage daughter, Kimberly, in a new sitcom called Different Strokes.
I remember I saw a bunch of girls and Dana came in the room and lit the room up, and I was like, that's Kimberly. And they hired her.
But I sure the hit show featured a wealthy widower who adopts two brothers, Willis and Arnold.
Oh, they're here. Oh, look at them, Daddy. Just look at them. Welcome, little brother.
It was the first time that there was a show where two black kids and two white people who were actually hugging each other and telling them they love each other. That wasn't seen on television before like that.
Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Dad.
Dana reigned supreme as America's favorite sister on one of the most iconic family shows of the 80s.
Dana was that sister that everybody would want to have, that was always looking out for you. And beautiful young lady, and it's that X factor that we talk about. She had it.
November 6th, 1997, backstage at the Sinbad show, 18 months before Dana's death. The Different Strokes cast party after their successful talk show appearance. Celebratory drinks are handed round.
I can see from reports that Dana was regularly exposed to alcohol as part of her Hollywood lifestyle. Alcohol affects brain chemistry by altering levels of chemical messengers that transmit disease, thought processes, behavior, and emotion. Long-term alcohol dependence increases chances of depression and suicide. So did Dana have a history of abusing alcohol?
At just 14 years old, Dana began riding high on the success of Different Strokes. But the pressure on her to be Veronica's ideal teenage daughter was enormous.
At the time, with the thing that none of us really understood was the pressure. You're not entitled to make any mistakes. You got to try to be perfect. It's just not feasible for any child.
By her late teens, Dana was drinking regularly to cope with the stress.
Dana turned to alcohol. That was her friend, and it kept her company and told her she was okay. And it seemed like her addictive personality made her overindulge pretty early on.
Over the next 5 years, Dana headed towards alcohol addiction. According to Dana, it was emotional problems that made it possible for the alcoholic inside me to be born.
Dana was an addict. She had problems. She used alcohol to solve those problems.
At its worst, Dana was reportedly drinking a gallon of vodka a day.
Just kept drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking.
In 1991, Dana's alcohol addiction would contribute to one of the most notorious episodes in her life, when the 26-year-old entered a Las Vegas video store. Dana produced a pellet gun and demanded money from the cash register.
When she pulled the gun out from under her jacket, she goes, "Give me the money." And I knew who she was, and I said, "You've got to be kidding." And she goes, "No, do I look like I'm kidding?" And she pointed it at me.
Dana opens up a video store and gets $164 from the cash register.
Dana was soon arrested.
I mean, how hard was it, who robbed me? The girl from Different Strokes. Like, they don't know who that was. So that's how we all knew it was a cry for help.
After the robbery, Dana went into alcohol rehabilitation. She maintained she remained sober for the remaining years of her life. But friends have their doubts.
Well, I don't think she was sober yet. I think most producers knew that.
Well, I decided I want to be sober. You know, I want to live. I want to learn how to live. I want my life back.
Dana was claiming 10 years of sobriety. If you go back in her history, in those 10 years, there was a whole lot of things that didn't match up with 10 years of sobriety.
I can see that Dana had been drinking heavily since she was a teenager and was a self-confessed alcoholic. However, looking at her toxicology report, I can see there was no alcohol in her system at the time of death. Even if she wasn't drinking towards the end of her life, Dana had periods of chronic alcohol consumption, and this increases the risk of a person developing depression. If I'm looking at suicide, it's something I have to take into account. Although drinking may have been a contributory factor, I don't believe this history of alcohol abuse alone would be enough to support the verdict of suicide.
But Dr. Hunter has discovered shocking evidence in Dana's autopsy report that reveals a dark and troubled past.
Introducing Michelob Ultra Organic Seltzer, the only national USDA certified organic hard seltzer. We're not playing around. New Michelob Ultra Organic Seltzer, as real as it tastes.
Research shows people remember commercials with nostalgia. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance, here's one that'll really take it out.
Wow, what'd you get, Ryan?
It's customized home insurance from Liberty Mutual.
What does it do, Brian?
It customizes our home insurance so we only pay for what we need.
And what did you get, Mike?
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
New year, new choices. Choose Smile. New year, new smile. They cost up to 60% less than braces. Go from this to this. Start your New Year smile for free at SmileDirectClub.com.
Managing type 2 diabetes? You're on it. Staying fit and snacking light? Yep, on it there too. You may think you're doing all you can to manage type 2 diabetes and heart disease. But could your medication do more to lower your heart risk? Jardiance can reduce the risk of cardiovascular death for adults who also have known heart disease, so it can help save your life from a heart attack or stroke, and it lowers A1C.
Jardiance can cause serious side effects including dehydration, genital yeast or urinary tract infections, and sudden kidney problems. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may be fatal. A rare but life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this bacterial infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. And don't take it if you're on dialysis or have severe kidney problems. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
Lower A1C and lower risk of a fatal heart attack?
On it with Jardiance.
Ask your doctor about Jardiance. Your grooming business is booming. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. The moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Claim your $75 credit when you post your first job at Indeed.com/groomer.
I was having night terrors. I wasn't sleeping. I'd seen BetterHelp ads, and I was like, I should give it a shot. I was paired with a really good counselor. I feel hopeful for the first time in a long time.
Let's start with all the dads who aren't exactly sports guys. Narrow it to all the non-sports dads who love watching sports in the rain. With kids who can catch almost everything, especially a cold. That brings us to you. You're the one we paid my Walgreens for. An easier way to save, shop, and perhaps catch a break. Introducing my Walgreens. Join and get 30-minute pickups at Walgreens.com.
Welcome to Rainbow. Taste the Rainbow. What a great movie you can watch at home. Reels recommend Unhinged. Russell Crowe takes road rage to a new level of terror in
in this unpredictable thriller. I don't even think you really know what a bad day is. Watch Unhinged on demand. A world order. Join me Saturday as I take a new look at one of the most notorious crimes in American history. Plus, I revisit the day I spent face to face with Charles Manson. Death by Manson. Premieres Saturday on Real.
Eminent forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Hunter is investigating the death of Different Strokes star Dana Plato, who died at the age of just 34.
Dana Plato's death was widely reported as accidental overdose at the time of her passing. But less than 2 weeks later, the medical examiner reported it as suicide. I want to find out more about Dana's state of mind before her overdose and whether she was so emotionally low that she intended to kill herself.
February 1999. Magnolia Beach RV Park, Florida. Less than 3 months before her death. Dana is living in a Winnebago with her new fiancé, Robert Menchaca. They got engaged after just 6 months.
Robert Menchaca was a younger guy, worked in construction, was her whirlwind romance, swept her off her feet.
Dana claims to be in a positive mental space and is lining up work, including a theater group tour.
Dana was very hopeful, and as well myself, that she would have a big resurgence to her career and be back on top.
According to personal accounts, Dana was planning for the future and not exhibiting any sense of the hopelessness associated with suicide. But there are warning signs that she may have battered dark suicidal thoughts in her past. In Dana's autopsy report, I can see the anterior view of her body details 2 scars on her right wrist. These could be a sign of self-harm, indicative of an attempt to cut her own wrist. There are 2 major arteries in the front of the wrist, and if cut, extensive bleeding and death can occur. I have no further details on what led to these scars, but I found evidence of a much clearer cry for help.
In 1979, a 14-year-old Dana was about to embark on her Different Strokes career. But behind the smiles, all was not well.
It was on a Sunday, and I had come over to visit with her. And Dana was downstairs with some of her school chums. Dana went into this spare bathroom. Dana got a whole handful of pills. She swallowed them, glass of water.
Dana had taken a dangerous amount of her Mom K's pills and collapsed in front of her friends.
Her friends started screaming, Dana, help, she's taken all these pills.
Friends and family called 911, and Dana was eventually rushed to the hospital.
It was very hard. It was a horrible day. Horrible.
The medical examiner noted that Dana had a history of past suicidal gestures. So her overdose attempt at the age of 14 was not an isolated incident. Previous suicide attempts are one of the strongest predictors for future suicidal behavior and could indicate that Dana was much more likely to take her own life at the age of 34. I can also see that Dana's toxicology report reveals a drug that, if abused, could have increased her risk of suicide, and that's diazepam. Commonly sold as Valium, diazepam is a type of a benzodiazepine that acts on the central nervous system, producing sedation and lowering anxiety levels. However, long-term use of diazepam can lead to drug addiction and abuse. Of course, the higher doses a person takes, the greater the odds for both overdose and suicide. So did Dana have a long-term dependency on this addictive drug? And if so, why?
In 1981, a 16-year-old Dana was riding high on Different Strokes success. But the public scrutiny never let up
especially when the teenager started a new relationship.
Dana marries Lanny Lambert, a rock and roll guitarist. They have this whirlwind romance.
The couple married a year later. And in 1984, their only child, Tyler, was born.
She loved her little boy. And you know something? I honestly believe that he doted on her. He loved his mommy.
When Dana got pregnant and was having a baby, I remember she said, yes, I'm finally going to have someone who really loves me.
But the network decided that Dana's pregnancy didn't fit the show's wholesome image of Kimberly, and she was released from her contract.
The show was a great way for Dana to escape. And when she was let go, that killed Dana. That destroyed Dana. That was her way to be happy and to stay happy, or to keep that fictitious happiness.
Dana was no longer America's favorite. And as she desperately tried to rebuild her career, she suffered a major blow. Dana's mom, Kay, had been suffering with the disease scleroderma, which hardened her skin and blood vessels. When Dana was just 23, Kay died.
When her mother passed away, it really got to Dana. And Dana felt all alone.
More tragedy was to follow. In the same week that her mother died, Dana's husband, Lanny, left her. Dana descended into alcohol and drug addiction, and after months of soul-searching, decided to give up custody of her son, Tyler, because she felt Lanny could offer more stability.
So not only has she lost her mother, she lost her whole family. And you have to remember, at this point, different strokes is not around anymore, right? Her job, that one thing that she knew she was good at, well, that's over too.
Personal reports tell me that by the time Dana was in her mid-20s, she had suffered a number of anxiety-causing events. Despite this, I can find no record of her being prescribed diazepam at this stage in her life, but I can see all this change in the early 90s.
By the time Dana was 27, with the success of different strokes far behind her, she was scratching out a living in dead-end jobs in Las Vegas.
It's going to affect not only your self-esteem, your emotional standpoint. You feel like someone just took everything from you. And you start to go restless. You know, and that's exactly what happened with her.
It was at this point that Dana started to abuse diazepam, sold as Valium.
So it sends me to a psychiatrist, which puts me on Valium. So I started taking these Valiums and quickly became addicted.
Dana's addiction to the drug led to more drastic behavior.
She ended up stealing a prescription pad, forging a doctor's signature, going to the pharmacy and getting 1,000 Valium tablets. And that led to the arrest.
I need help. I'm sick. I really need help.
Dana was given a suspended sentence and re-entered a rehabilitation program.
When you're addicted to something like drugs or alcohol, you do things that are not in your nature. And I really think that people that have an addiction problem should be able to get some help.
But it seems Dana Plato could never fully give up her dependence on diazepam.
Dana's autopsy report showed elevated levels of diazepam, suggesting she was still a user. Her long-term and high-level abuse of the drug could have increased her risk for overdose. So I can't rule it out as a factor in her death. And I've discovered something else in Dana's autopsy report that could have seriously impacted on her state of mind in the days before her death.
Could a dangerous cocktail of drugs have altered her mind so considerably that she took her own life?
Saturday, January 30th, on Wheels. Two of rock's biggest and baddest. A two-night event. Axl Rose, Aerosmith, Bad Boys of Rock. It all starts Saturday, January 30th, on Wheels.
At Philadelphia, we know what makes the perfect smear of cream cheese. You need only the freshest milk and cream. That one. And the world's best, and possibly only, Chamelier. Philadelphia, smear perfection.
TracFone Wireless gives you unlimited carryover data. $20, no contract.
$20? Wow, that's great.
Yeah, hit decline. I don't want to talk to her. Hit me. Get me. This is your wake-up call, people. TracFone Wireless. Now you're in control.
Our essential mist transforms fragrance infused with natural essential oils into a mist to awaken your home with an experience you can see, smell, and feel. It's air care redefined. Airwick Essential Mist. Connect to nature.
Do we really need a sign to live, laugh, and love?
Yes.
The answer is no. I can help your homeowners not become their parents.
Yeah, no.
Nope. Coley, no. No. Joaquin, no. It just takes practice. Give it a shot. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
It's a constant battle. We're going to open a PDF. Who's next?
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle all another with us.
No fussing, no cussing, and no laughing.
For skin that never holds you back, don't settle for silver. #1 for diabetic dry skin. #1 for psoriasis symptom relief. And #1 for eczema symptom relief. Gold Bond. Champion your skin.
Find your rhythm, your happy place. Find your breaking point. Then break it. Every emergency gives you a potent blend of nutrients, so you can emerge your best with emergency.
I'm Erin.
And I'm Margo.
We've always done things our own way,
Charted our own paths.
I wasn't going to just back down from moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis.
Psoriatic arthritis wasn't going to change who I am.
When I learned that my joint pain could mean permanent joint damage, I asked about Enbrel. Enbrel helps relieve joint pain and helps stop permanent joint damage.
Plus, Enbrel helps skin get clearer in psoriatic arthritis. Ask your doctor about Enbrel so you can get back to your true self. Enbrel may lower your ability to fight infections. Serious, sometimes fatal events, including infections, tuberculosis, lymphoma, other cancers, nervous system and blood disorders, and allergic reactions have occurred. Tell your doctor if you've been someplace where fungal infections are common, or if you're prone to infections, have cuts or sores, have had hepatitis B, have been treated for heart failure, or if you have persistent fever, bruising, bleeding, or paleness. Don't start Enbrel if you have an infection like the flu.
Visit Enbrel.com to see how your joint damage could progress. Enbrel. Eligible patients may pay as little as $5 per month.
Here's to the experiences we create. The moment we share. Wherever we are. Same celebration. Enhance your moment.
Okay, Mimo, you said it. And as I spike it, I'll tell them how Liberty customizes harm. They only pay for what they need. Got it? Did you get that? Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Go to realcares.com for small business resources.
On May 8th, 1999, the much-loved Different Strokes actor Dana Plato died in Oklahoma at the age of just 34. Now, forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Hunter is investigating the death of the woman who became America's favorite sitcom sister in the 80s.
Dana Plato's death was ruled as suicide, but some disagree with this verdict. Dana appeared to have much to live for, including her son, a fiance, and new career prospects. So why and how did she take her own life? I can see her toxicology report as positive for benzoylecgonine. Benzoylecgonine is formed in the liver by the metabolism of cocaine and is detected during urine drug tests. Could cocaine have affected her frame of mind? And did this contribute to her reported suicide?
May 6th, 1999, Novotel Hotel, Times Square, New York. It's 2 days before Dana's death. Having spent the last 10 years dealing with a faltering career, Dana is trying for a relaunch. She's been flown to New York by an events promoter, Shane Bugby, who has booked her to appear at an alternative arts event in 2 weeks.
Did you read that contract?
I'm sure whatever you write is fine. And I trust him completely anyway.
Now he's asked Dana to promote it on the Howard Stern radio show tomorrow morning.
To make a deal with Dana to get on the Howard Stern show just took money. I just offered her money to do that. Talking to her, though, about it, when I sold her on the idea, it was about being herself, trying to be more of an adult, and to maybe yield some opportunities for herself.
Recent headlines in the National Enquirer have linked Dana to cocaine abuse, something she's keen to dispute.
She was very scared at first of the Howard Stern show because of the National Enquirer drama that was out there, and she felt was damaging her career. So to go on Howard Stern would have helped repair her career.
So I'm glad you're in the hotel, huh?
And that's that. So here we go, baby.
We did plan her dress, her wardrobe, all this stuff.
What I brought to wear was it's like a little sundress. Okay, it's real quick cut. It's not real sexy, or anything like that. It has all the look clean. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to look hot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to slutty go on hot.
Oh, absolutely.
Howard Stern's interview will be a tough test of Dana's emotional state.
If she had called me and said, Connie, I'm wanting to do the Howard Stern show, I said, don't you dare. And I would have called Howard Stern and said, do not put this girl on. I would have done everything I can to stop it. Everything.
There's no doubt the shock jock will quiz Dana about the cocaine rumors.
You had to have a thick hide to go into Howard Stern and survive. Otherwise, he could chew you up and spit you out.
Cocaine allows the mood-enhancing dopamine to accumulate in the brain synapses, causing the euphoria commonly experienced immediately after taking the drug. Depression can become a symptom of long-term cocaine use, as abusers become deficient in the neurotransmitter dopamine. And depression is a leading risk factor in suicidal thought. I need to find out more about Dana's reported cocaine use.
By the time she reached her early 20s, Dana was abusing cocaine after being let go by different strokes.
We could do coke together, because that's what I was doing, and she was doing it. We were both trying to smash all the emotions and feelings that we were dealing with, and none of us knew how to deal with it correctly.
Over the next 10 years, reports of Dana's drug use continued to make tabloid headlines, setting up a cycle of abuse.
You have a situation where she's down, the press is being horrible to her, so she kind of self-medicates and she makes sort of, bad decisions, which means that the press get hold of that and they see that and they report on that. She gets down, so she kind of tries to help herself by kind of self-medicating, and you kind of set up this really unhealthy cycle that's never actually broken. She's never given the chance to kind of find healthier ways to kind of cope and move forward.
She ended up descending into, B movies, posing for Playboy, softcore porn, pretty much everything that we would associate with people that are on the downward spiral of their career and their life.
And wherever Dana went, so the cocaine rumors followed. May 7, 1999, the Howard Stern radio show, New York. The day before Dana's death.
So here is Dana Plato, looking good.
Doesn't look like she's near death.
Hi, Dana. How you doing? You don't look near death.
Thanks for having me
I
back.
heard you were nervous to come in.
Well, hell yeah.
Yeah, everyone would.
Howard wastes no time in quizzing Dana.
So have you been in psychotherapy? Have you been on any medication or
I have
anything
been
like that?
sober for the longest time.
Really?
Oh, it's over a decade now.
No kidding.
No joke.
Dana rejects any links with cocaine.
So you weren't doing any crack or anything with her?
Hell no.
No.
And people weren't coming to try to find you, to pick you up and get you into rehab.
Oh, they can all bite me.
She got on the show and she just denied it. Oh, I've never done cocaine. Oh, I've never done that. And then that's when the calls came in and they started just rolling her.
Dana claims to be completely clean, apart from prescription drugs taken for pain when her wisdom teeth were removed.
Wisdom teeth count because I had them out. So it wrecked my life for a while. So
What'd you take for that?
I had to take stuff for that.
Percodan?
I had to.
It's not really Stern. It's his fans that are just monsters. If you're not honest, they know.
Ask your question of Dana.
Hi, Todd.
Get this girl out of here. She's a has-been.
Oh, please.
Come on. She just needs to admit that she's an ex-druggie,
Yeah.
ex-con, with mental health problems.
Oh, do you know this for sure, sir?
She jumped into the lion's cage, and I can hear her getting upset and more upset.
I'm clean. You're doing drugs. Wow, you have more controversy than me.
I'm just tired.
You're tired of the whole thing.
I'm tired of defending my character everywhere I go.
After the show, Dana checks in with Shane.
Dana calls me back and says, how was it, Shane? How was I? I said, I think you sounded great.
According to Shane, Dana coped well with the abuse.
She had been picked on throughout most of her adult life as being a loser, or a drug addict, or a porn person. So I don't think that anything that happened on the Howard Stern show is something that bothered Dana to the point of suicide.
Other friends think the show may have affected her.
I actually do think Dana was so fragile that any negativity about her was hard for her to deal with. She played like she wasn't, but she was.
I can see that Dana was fragile after the events of the last 36 hours of her life. Cocaine could have offered a narcotic high to escape to, but despite her positive result for the byproduct benzoylecgonine in her blood, she had a negative result for cocaine in her urine, telling me that she had not resorted to the drug in the last hours of her life. However, Dana had used the drug for the larger part of her adult life, so I can't rule out cocaine as a factor in her death. And I've discovered more evidence that Dana took a pain-killing opiate that could provide answers to the question, did Dana Plato really mean to take her own life?
I'm Earl Dorother. Join me as I take a new look at one of the most notorious crimes in American history. Plus, I revisit the day I spent face-to-face with Charles Manson. Death by Manson. Premieres Saturday on Reef.
Want a great movie you can watch at home? Leo's recommends Bill and Ted Face the Music.
I'm tired, dude.
You have a jazz musical show. The best friends return to search the future for the ultimate rock and roll anthem. Is he playing hopscotch by yourself? He's cheating. Hey, Dad. Watch Bill and Ted Face the Music on demand. Leo's recommends. Brought to you by Geico. You can save even more by bundling home and car insurance.
Broken windshield, take one. Hey guys, my windshield just got broken. I feel like I need to blow off some steam. Let's go.
Mr. Blanks, there's no need to be stressed. Geico makes it easy to file a claim online, on the app, or over the phone.
Yeah, but what if I never hear back? That's going to make me want to go.
No, your Geico claims team is always there for you.
That makes you want to celebrate with some fireworks. 5, 6, 7, go. Boom, 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 boom.
Geico, great service without all the drama.
Ah, a package. You know what this human ordered? A backache. Consider pain delivered. Pain says you can't. Advil says you can.
Planters is for the cravers. Crunchy, savory cravers. And the cravers that deserve something special. Planters Deluxe Mixed Nuts. Stay satisfied.
These fudge brownie M&Ms are really fudgy.
Yes, they are.
To put a fudge brownie center in an M&M's is...
Genius. I know.
I was going to say hard. Why won't you go with
Fudge brownie M&Ms.
Is the 7 wild caught?
Show me it's wild caught.
I need a price check on honey.
Don't get mad, get E-Trade and get more than just trading, investing, banking, guidance.
You can't put a price on connection, so we didn't. With Text Now, you get a real phone number with unlimited nationwide calls and texts for $0 a month. Download Text Now for free today. It was so stupid.
Is he okay? Oh, yeah. We decided he's done walking for the day.
The moments that make you. Dial Body Wash gets you clean. Its rich lather cleanses and hydrates, leaving a fresh scent and clean, soft skin.
What's inside Airborne? A blast of immune support that's more than just vitamin C. It's a unique frosted blend of vitamins, zinc, other minerals, and oils. Take on your day with Airborne, your daily dose of confidence.
Eminent forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Hunter is examining the medical evidence surrounding the reported suicide of different strokes actress Dana Plato.
In my investigation to discover if Dana Plato really meant to kill herself, I found that her body contained traces of the chemicals with links to cocaine and diazepam. Her toxicology report is full of more clues, and I can see one other drug that could be highly significant. The prescription painkiller, hydrocodone. Hydrocodone belongs to a class of drugs called opioids. They work by attaching to special receptors in the brain that control pain and emotion. But why was Dana taking the drug, and what impact did it have on her state of mind?
1 p.m., May 8, 1999. Mother's Day weekend, Moore, Oklahoma. Less than 9 hours before Dana's death. The day after the Howard Stern show, Dana is picked up from the airport by her fiancé, Robert Menchaca, who takes her to the house of his mother, Marcella.
She was like, listen, I'm going to go down to Oklahoma for Mother's Day.
Tomorrow, Dana plans to celebrate with her 14-year-old son, Tyler, who she's looking forward to seeing. But for now, she wants time alone.
So she's tired and needs to relax in the RV. Ends up taking a cocktail of meds and God knows whatever else in order to sleep.
She takes hydrocodone. According to Dana, the powerful painkiller has been prescribed for the recent extraction of her wisdom teeth.
Hydrocodone is often prescribed to relieve pain that stems from injuries or surgery. The common side effects include confusion and slowed breathing, which could have an impact on Dana's last hours.
That afternoon, after taking her drugs, Dana gets into bed. The events of the last 36 hours have taken their toll.
I think given what happened on the Howard Stern show, I think Dana would have felt not just deflated, but I think very hopeless. Don't forget, one of the big issues for her was this need for acceptance. It's almost as if she needed others to accept her for her to accept herself.
Later that afternoon, Dana's boyfriend, Robert, joins her in their RV.
Dana was kind of cold and clammy. Robert covered her up with a blanket in the RV. And then snuggled up to go to sleep next to her.
According to Robert Menchaca's accounts, Dana was already cold and sweating. This could have indicated low blood pressure and a slower respiratory rate. Dana already had a mixture of both hydrocodone and diazepam in her body, which could have dangerously depressed her breathing and increased the risk of unconsciousness.
Around 8:30 p.m., Robert stirs in the bed after sleeping next to Dana.
Robert awakens and finds Dana not breathing and unresponsive and cold to the touch. He screams for his mother.
Marcella Menchaca is a nursing assistant and does all she can to combine chest compressions artificial ventilation to save Dana. Emergency medical services are quickly on scene, but Dana is already unconscious and not breathing. The paramedics rush Dana by ambulance to the nearby Southwest Medical Center in Oklahoma City. On arrival, she is declared dead at 9:30 p.m.
Dana Plato, a TV star at 12. She died on Saturday of an overdose of prescription drugs.
Dana's passing absolutely devastated me. She shared her life with everybody. And at the end, a darkness that was just so hit me right in the heart. Just still upsets me,
Her passing really got to me. It broke my heart. She was very special to me in my life. She didn't realize how many people loved her. She had no idea.
Poor little Tyler was waiting by the phone on Mother's Day for hours, waiting for that phone call that never came. She did not have to go this way.
Rumors circulate, and questions over Dana's passing immediately surface.
Reporters called the death of the 34-year-old Plato an apparent accident.
In the first 48 hours, Dana's death is widely reported not as suicide, but accidental overdose.
Here's that the death is related to an accidental overdose of prescription medication.
At the time of Dana's death, it was reported in the media as an accidental overdose due to a mix of hydrocodone and diazepam. Certainly, this toxic combination can slow breathing and has been responsible for many accidental polydrug overdose deaths. Dana claimed that she took the hydrocodone for pain from a wisdom teeth extraction. But this drug can also be mixed with other prescription medications to create a recreational high, opening up the possibility that Dana could have accidentally overdosed while intoxicated. And I discovered something else in the toxicology report. Could Dr. Hunter's findings shed new light on exactly what happened on the night Dana Plato died?
You take the good, you take the bad, and there you have the facts of life. There's something about this show that people really connected to. Join me for the facts of life behind closed doors. Next on Real.
Why Walgreens? With Save a Trip refills that let you pick up all your prescriptions all on the same day, we make filling your Medicare prescriptions go like clockwork, so you can get back to what you'd rather be doing.
With Oscar Mayer Deli Fresh, it's not just a sandwich. Far from it. There's a reason to come together. It's a taste of something good. A taste we could all use right now. So let's make the most of it and make every sandwich count with Oscar Mayer Deli Fresh. Max. No. Max.
Dogs don't know what's good for them. Luckily, you do. Greenie's Dental Treats.
A migraine hope from Avon to show up for the sweet, the hectic, the tender, the tense, and the fiery. But for many, migraine keeps them from saying, I am here. We aim to change that with Avon, a preventive treatment for migraine in adults. One dose once a month is proven to reduce monthly migraine days, for some by half or more. Don't take Avon if you're allergic to it. Allergic reactions like rash or swelling can happen hours to days after use. Severe constipation can happen, sometimes with serious complications. High blood pressure can happen or worsen with Avon. Common side effects include injection site reactions and constipation. It doesn't matter what each day brings, so long as you can say, I am here. Aim to be there more. Talk to your doctor about Avon.
New year, new choices. Choose Smile. new year, new smile. The cost up to 60% less than braces. Go from this to this. Start your New Year smile for free at SmileDirectClub.com.
TracFone Wireless gives you unlimited carryover data. $20, no contract.
$20? Wow, that's great.
Yeah, hit decline. I don't want to talk to her. Hit me, get me. This is your wake-up call, people. TracFone Wireless. Now you're in control.
Research shows people remember commercials with nostalgia. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance, here's one that'll really take you back.
Wow! What'd you get, Ryan?
It's customized home insurance from Liberty Mutual.
What does it do, Black?
It customizes our home insurance so we only pay for what we need.
And what did you get, Mike?
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Let's get sick too. Protection. Lysol laundry sanitizer kills 99.9% of illness-causing bacteria detergents leave behind. Proven to kill COVID-19.
Hi, Susan. Honey.
Yeah?
I respect that, but that cough looks pretty bad. Try this new Robitussin Honey Severe.
The real honey you love, plus the powerful cough relief you need.
Mind if I root through your trash?
New Robitussin Honey Severe. Strong relief for your severe symptoms.
Bad Boys of Rock starts Saturday, January 30th on Real.
Dana Plato's death was first reported as an accidental overdose, but the official verdict was suicide. Now, leading forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Hunter has been examining the last hours of her life to discover the truth.
Dana Plato's death was recorded as suicide, but some maintain her death was an accident. So far, I've discovered that the 34-year-old had taken a mix of hydrocodone and diazepam. But I've also come across another drug in her system, carisoprodol. Could this solve the mystery of why her death was ruled a suicide?
Just hours before passing out in her RV, Dana took pills containing carisoprodol, along with the many other drugs already in her system.
Carisoprodol is a prescription drug that works by slowing activity in the brain and allowing muscles to relax. But establishing exactly whether Dana took this toxic mix on purpose to kill herself or for some other reason depends on establishing what state of mind she was in.
In the hours after Dana's death, a police search of Dana's RV for clues finds no suicide note. And for many, the idea of Dana taking her life seems unlikely.
Did you ever consider suicide at one point?
Oh, hell no.
You never did. Never got that bad.
Got a beautiful boy, no.
Right, you would never do that.
I'm okay in my skin, you know?
Right.
I'm okay with who I am.
Suicide, I don't believe, was even in the cards for her. It wasn't even plausible. Dana had everything to live for. She had a burgeoning career, and I don't believe she would take herself away from Tyler.
The medical examiner's verdict of suicide had to be based on the evidence of the intent of Dana to take her own life. They note the cause of her death is toxic concentrations of carisoprodol and hydrocodone, with high levels of both of these drugs in her blood. However, for me, what is most telling is the contents of her stomach. I can see the equivalent of 7 large carisoprodol tablets remain unabsorbed here. More than a daily intake, on top of the carisoprodol already in her system. With her breathing slowed by the hydrocodone and diazepam, by that time already taking effect, these dangerous levels of carisoprodol further enhance their respiratory depressant effects, becoming lethal. The medical examiner reports this as acute intentional overdose ingestion. And this would have played a major part in their final verdict of suicide. But for me, there's still the question of why Dana took these drugs.
I definitely believe it was accidental. I think she was just trying to kill the pain that she was dealing with that day and get some sleep and maybe wake up in the morning and do something different.
One theory I need to consider is that Dana was trying to escape into a prescription drug high. In fact, her specific mix of paracetamol, hydrocodone, and benzodiazepines became widely used by recreational abusers in the 90s, and later earned the nickname the Holy Trinity. Was Dana simply trying to get high using this combination of drugs, and in a confused state, just didn't know how much she was taking?
Did she take one too many? Certainly. Being tired and forgetting she took something, those were my first thoughts. There was no way I ever thought suicide, and I wish I could have done more to fight that ruling.
I can appreciate why the medical examiner concluded Dana committed suicide. Certainly, Dana had taken a deadly quantity of drugs in a short space of time. I can also see that her past history of suicidal gestures played a major part in this ruling, including events that remained private. But for me, I think the fact that the law enforcement officers originally on scene, who collected good information from first-hand witnesses, felt confident enough to state that it was an accidental overdose raises some uncertainty. Dana left no suicide note, and many of those close to her maintain that taking her own life was not a possibility for her. That, alongside the fact that Dana, a woman with a long history of substance abuse, took such a specific mix of drugs associated with recreational highs, meant that the chance of her making a fatal error while intoxicated became a strong likelihood. Weighing up all the evidence, on balance, I think it's more probable that Dana accidentally overdosed rather than committed suicide.
Whatever the verdict, Dr. Hunter believes there's more certainty about what was happening in Dana's body in the moments before her death.
According to the autopsy report, Dana's drug overdose caused pulmonary edema and congestion. As the drugs filtered into her bloodstream, her respiration slowed. As the concentration of CO2 rose and oxygen decreased, Dana's heart and brain started to fail. As a result, Dana's lungs filled with fluid. Eventually, her heart stopped beating, leading to organ failure and finally death. There was simply no coming back for Dana.
She had the love and the adoration and the career and the family, and then it felt like in a blink of an eye, all of that was gone. And don't forget, she was very self-aware of how she was seen, right? She would have had to have been. You can't be in the public eye as a kid without having an intense self-awareness of the perception of others. You're almost beholden to that identity that you start off with. She never had the sense of entitlement to establish the identity that was really her, which I think was really one of the biggest tragedies in this story.
Guys, I did! I got the job!
Congratulations!
Oh, super!
Kimberly.
I miss her laugh, her giggle, her funniness, her corny jokes. You know, her coming up and going, "Time!" You know, and giving me a kiss on the cheek. I miss all that about Dana.
When Dana left us, a beautiful butterfly was gone. And I do remember at her memorial, a butterfly came down and landed on the urn. And I know that was Dana.
You take the good. This girl was a stand-up comedian without any training. Sure enough, I met her and she knocked me out. You take the bad.
She said, I don't know that I want to do this.
You take them both, and what you have is one iconic show.
When people hear the phrase Cousin Jerry, people light up.
It was the first time a visible person with a disability was seen on a primetime show.
In 1979, The Facts of Life hit the small screen in a big way.
The show premiered last week as a miniseries, and guess what? First time out, it beat all the competition.
We said, whoa, there's something here. There's magic here. And while the show would become a long-running staple of 80s television, the road to success was anything but a given.
The number of things that have to go right to create a hit television show is mind-boggling.
We take a look at how this iconic show came together.
When the right actor meets the right character, there's a spark.
The challenges.
The big challenge is using 7 girls.
It was a circus. There were so many people. The setbacks.
When I decided to whittle down the cast,
It broke my heart. And the magic moments in between. Gwen stands up for Joe, and we found the show.
I don't think any of us really expected it. It's magic.
This is The Facts of Life Behind Closed Doors. It's one of the longest running sitcoms of the 1980s. Throughout 9 seasons and 201 episodes, The Facts of Life earned its place in television and pop culture history. Decades later, the memories of Mrs. Garrett's blend of humor and tough love are vivid. Welcome to Behind Closed Doors. I'm Natalie Morales. Week after week, the nation would tune in for the adolescent struggles and triumphs of Tootie, Joe, Natalie, and Blair, who all grew up on national television. The comedy became NBC's top-rated program. In living rooms across America, The Facts of Life was a weekly staple with one unforgettable theme song. You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. The facts of life.
I will go to my grave being able to sing that theme song.
They got stuck in your head. They were earworms that you wouldn't be able to get rid of. And isn't it funny that we can all remember theme songs? They're just kind of so perfect. And the pedigree of the Facts of Life theme song is really interesting because it was written by Gloria Loring and her then husband Ellen Thicke. And it's so perfectly cheesy. The words, you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. That's so dumb. And yet it kind of helps establish what we're about to see.
the show still resonates with people. Teenage girls are teenage girls. And what they went through 40 years ago, they're still going through now.
The authenticity of The Facts of Life was one of the reasons it was successful.
There's something about this show that people really connected to.
When you talk about what we love about comedies, it's the feelings we keep with us. And I think that's what helped the show become more of a classic.
There were 4 Beatles. So everybody loved their favorite Beatles. So everyone loved their favorite Facts of Life girl.
I play those tough yet vulnerable characters. I think that's in every job description I take. Can she be tough yet vulnerable?
Charlotte was the glue that held